federal government has long been associated with entrenched bureaucracy separated by agencies and ignorant of the realities of the average American's life. Federal agencies impose regulatory requirements under a siloed organizational structure, that is, program by program, department by department, with very little interagency coordination. This committee is well aware of the impact of federal agencies' failure to coordinate between themselves and non-federal stakeholders. For the last 8 years, the Government Accountability Office has issued an annual report on overlapping, duplicative, and otherwise wasteful federal programs, and to date, addressing the problems that GAO highlights in these reports has saved over $175 billion. Addressing the remaining could save tens of billions of dollars more, and I might even argue in some cases hundreds of billions of dollars more. In other words, the failure of federal agencies to coordinate has wasted hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money over the last decade. But the impact of the failure of the administrative state doesn't stop there. The lack of interagency coordination has led to a steady accumulation of divergent regulatory mandates on states and the private sector. Despite often seeking similar results, federal agencies impose conflicting regulations that force the regulated entities like state agencies and private sector businesses to focus heavily on compliance rather than improved outcomes. Although the panel comes from different sectors, missions, and backgrounds, there is remarkable consistency in their testimony about the burdensome effects of a divergent regulatory regime. Today, federal regulations touch nearly every aspect of daily life, and those regulations have become so complex that even the regulators can't agree what the requirements are or how to comply with them. As a result, these divergent regulations drastically increase the overall cost of the intended operations and deviate from the intended purpose of the regulations themselves. According to the Competitive Enterprise Institute, federal regulations cost the economy nearly $2 trillion annually. And what I like to point out, I have some colleagues who identify that as a hidden tax. It really isn't. At least the tax goes to build a road or a bridge or has some good purpose in many cases. Regulatory cost is just a hidden cost and that weighs disproportionately heavily upon low-income families. I think it averages almost $15,000 per household. Likewise, state governments also experience a drain on resources and state autonomy due to regulatory divergence. State officials from the National Association of State Chief Information Officers have shared multiple accounts with the committee on duplicative and inconsistent audit requirements, imposing significant burdens on states without any substantive benefit. One state's Chief Information Security Officer reported that an audit of the same data security enterprise yielded inconsistent results across multiple federal agencies. Unfortunately, this has become a regular feature of the state partnership with the federal government. It is our duty to the American people to explore opportunities to harmonize our current regulatory standards. To do this, federal agencies, along with the state governments and private sector, need to come together to develop means of communication and cooperation to mitigate future duplicative, inconsistent, and obsolete regulations. We are fortunate today to have with us a panel that can help us better understand the challenges imposed by these federal regulatory standards. I thank the witnesses for being here today, and at this point, I would like to yield to my friend and colleague from Maryland, the ranking member, Mr. Raskins, for his opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.